Welcome to the Awarenezzz Podcast. In today's episode, we had the chance to speak with Jose Vazquez. Jose is a renowned strength coach that worked in the MLB for more than 20 years, winning a World Series title in 2023 and winning the Strength Coach of the Year award. In today's episode, we went into the weeds of how a player should train, how a baseball player should train, and we separated it into the different positions from starting pitcher to a reliever pitcher and then to a position player. Today's episode is full of actionable advice. So if you're an athlete, specifically a baseball player that wants to increase your performance, this episode is definitely for you. We went into specific reps, specific sets, specific selection of exercises that you should be doing, considering the goals that you have on mind. We also talk about how a professional baseball team at the highest level, plans and structures their training plan in a season that has 162 games. And baseball being the only sport probably that trains and plays the same day. So we went into all those challenges and how he navigated through them to make sure that their playing was performing at their best. So if you're just somebody that is interested on how the highest performance athlete perform, well, this episode is definitely for you. But more importantly, if you're an athlete that wants to get to the top of your performance and wants to know exactly how to train for the sport of baseball, this one is definitely a must watch. Enjoy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 29th episode of the Awarenezzz Podcast. Today, we are here with our guest, Jose Vazquez. Thank you very much for taking your time and introduce yourself to the people.
Hello, how you doing? So my name is Jose Vazquez. I am a physical therapist and strength coach. I was a former baseball player. I played Division I college at the University of Tennessee, and I played professional baseball in the minor leagues for the St. Louis Cardinals. And then after playing, I went into physical therapy. I worked in physical therapy for several years. And after that, I got a job with the New York Mets as the assistant strength coach. Yeah. And then 4 years later, I saw the opportunity to go to the Texas Rangers. They had an opening for the head strength coach, and I interviewed and got the job. And so from 2005 to 2023, I was their major league strength coach. After 23, I decided I wanted to change. I wanted some changes in my life and professionally and personally. And so now I'm doing all my work privately, private physical therapy clinic, private training, private consulting. I have a few different projects that I work on. So at this point, I'm mostly just a private contractor, in the physical therapy and strength and conditioning world.
No, man, that's amazing. And really looking forward because, more than 20 years of experience also in the major leagues, but not only from the you being the strength coach, but then you also had the chance to live it yourself and be inside of it, like as a player, right? And that's what I wanted to ask you about. Of course, you started out as a player, and when you're an athlete, and this also applies for both Mats and I, you want to be involved in sports like for the rest of your life if that's actually what you're passionate about. But I wanted to ask you what drove that decision of switching to more of like a physical therapy and strength coach from a player to that profession.
Well, I'd say the one thing that I did like about sports was the weight training. Yeah. And so because I was always drawn to the physical fitness and all that kind of stuff. And because I played football in high school.
Oh, really?
I was introduced to weights, and so I liked the heavy lifting and all that. And I saw how it made me stronger and faster and a little more more resilient and healthier. And so I applied that same principles to baseball, even though it's a little different and you got to be careful with the way you lift for baseball, but it did make me a better athlete. So I knew that I was at a young age, without knowing much, I was convinced that weight training was going to make me a better athlete, no matter what.
Yeah.
But because I did baseball for most of my life, I decided, I'll just go with what I know.
Okay.
I like football better. I mean, I really did like football better.
Okay.
But I I spent more time in baseball, so I thought it was a natural thing to do just to follow the baseball path. But when I got into physical therapy, I wasn't really looking to get back into baseball. It was more of I knew that it was a good job and it had
Okay.
similarities of things that I had already done,
Mm-hmm.
training, and I knew that I would work with some athletes, not all the time, but then it just grew from there. People would reach out to me and ask me to work with them, and
Okay.
on the side, and I started to develop a clientele on the side. And I realized, maybe I can get out of the clinic and go do sports only. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started uh, networking, people that I looked up to, just like everyone, like you guys are looking for more information. So you reach out to people. So I was doing a lot of that, a lot of traveling, spending a lot of money on seminars and
Okay.
certifications and things like that. And the more I did that, the more I grew, the more people I met along the way. And in one of those clinics, I met a guy named by the name of Tom House. He is
Somehow.
a name that people know him. He played in the major leagues for 12 years, but he's known mostly because he was Nolan Ryan's pitching coach.
Okay.
Nolan Ryan is probably one of the most famous pitchers
Yeah.
in baseball of all time. And so he was his pitching coach and good friend during his time in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So in one of those clinics that I attended to, I ran into him and we struck up a conversation. And through that conversation is where he thought that I'd be a perfect fit for Major League
Okay.
Baseball. And so he forwarded my resume to the Mets. And a few months later, I got a call, went to the interview, and the rest is history.
Yeah. 22 years later.
Yeah. So, he was a guy that just met me for 5 minutes. It
Mm.
wasn't someone that I knew for a long time and vouched for me. He saw potential in me and he forwarded my resume and so I had a 22-year major league career because of him.
Yeah, I mean, although what we want to talk about mostly is regarding strength training and performance, but I think that's also a very good lesson for anybody watching, that how a 5-minute conversation can lead to a 22-year career. Of course, that was not the only determining factor, but like that was a big turning point on your career. So like taking the chances of meeting other people and being willing to like just look for different opportunities, and you'll find that person that will give you that opportunity, right?
Yeah, it's important for
Yeah.
young professionals, no matter what your profession is, you have to network.
Mm-hmm.
And because you never know, one conversation, one connection can lead to your dream job, so it's important as you work on your career, it's not just about knowing the science and having a degree and all that. Is you then have to get out in the world and network and go to clinics and meet people
Yeah.
and pursue people that are like-minded and pursue people that have the same passion that you have for whatever job or career it is and do that. But because it really worked well for me, and my children are doing that, and my oldest daughter, she did it on her own. She didn't want any of my help, but she had the job that she found, and she ended up in the field that she liked, and through her networking and connections and calling and pursuing people, she found a good job but it was because she pursued it on her
Yeah.
own. It wasn't, she had the degree, but she had to, do some legwork and call some people.
Definitely. And Jose, I mean, of course, from that moment on, you went on to the major leagues and you stayed there for a very long time. And also, like for us, and also for the people to know what does a head strength coach does in the MLB, in an MLB team. Like, what was your main role?
Well, I would say that the general job description is oversee the physical fitness
Mm-hmm.
of the team.
Okay.
In some cases, they oversee the minor leagues also.
Okay.
Um, I did both at different times. I just things would just change. But
Okay, yeah,
basically, my role is a person who is responsible for the physical fitness of the players, and
okay,
so that includes uh, outfitting the weight room, making sure that we have good weight rooms, clean, everything works, that kind of stuff. It also includes program design,
mm-hmm.
uh, creating programs for the different guys, different positions. Um, making sure that we have software and technology that communicates, or at least first of all, stores what we do.
Yeah,
Also, software that communicates what we do to other departments or to other people in the organization, making
okay,
sure that we are able to present our information in a clear and concise way.
yeah,
Um, and the day to day is just chasing the guys down. When you play every day, guys don't feel like working out.
yeah,
So it's a constant pursuit of how do you feel today? What do what's your energy level like? And all right, coach, let's do a full workout, or let's do half a workout. Let's just not do anything, or so it's that constant pursuit of trying to get the guys uh, ready for the game,
yeah,
depending on what's going on with them. So basically in general, just a broad uh, overseeing, supervising role, and making sure that guys are ready for the
yeah.
game.
Okay, so not just programming the trainings, but then also the logistics and also making sure that the infrastructure for like how they're gonna like the environment in which they're gonna train, and then also integrating like the data that you receive, or the numbers you receive, or the feedback that you receive, making sure that all the different departments are aware of them, right? So like kind of like everybody's in the same page, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. And now that we know that, of course, like your main role was overseeing that physical fitness of the athletes, and that involves like programming the trainings for the players. I wanted to ask you, because I was looking into your a podcast that you did before, and you were talking about pillars that you have in like when it comes to strength training, when it comes to performance. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your philosophy on how did you approach the strength training.
Well, I think this is a very common outline that people use, when it comes to designing a program. You
Mm-hmm.
want to be functional. You want to be doing,
Yeah.
you want to go after movements that are functional to everything, squatting movements, pushing movements, pulling movements, hinging, and core. And so having those 5 pillars or those 5 variables, I I lead all my workouts from there. And
Okay.
so, that's the main core of what I do, and everything kind of goes out from there. And
Yeah.
so, it's very popular. I mean, I think you'll find that anywhere on Instagram, but how you apply that, that's up to you, and I grant that, you know, in between that, you got warm up, activations, prep work, priming, everybody calls it different, but like,
Yeah.
um, in that you assume, or I always make sure that people know
Mm-hmm.
there's more to that than just those 5 movements. It's just the weight training part. I started that way, but we, depending on their medical history, depending on what they need or their goals, we add things to the program, so that everybody has the basics, but then
Yeah.
everybody has their different uh, individual parts to their program.
I
So also
see.
the point you mentioned before, like with such a tight schedule in baseball, like you always have to ask the players how they feel on a daily basis. I can imagine it's not very easy.
Yeah,
Like,
because first of all, playing every day is exhausting.
Yeah.
Baseball, that's just the way baseball is. So you can't change that. Uh, and then you got guys that are young, you got guys that are older, you guys
Mm-hmm.
you got guys that are healthy, you got guys that are constantly hurt. Then you got travel,
Mm-hmm.
you got the food.
Yeah.
And we got, now when I say the food, we got good food. but some guys don't eat.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
too upset. They're too upset. They're too anxious. They're whatever. So they don't eat. And so that's
Mhm.
an issue. And so and because I, I don't know how other sports are, but baseball is one of those sports that it's impossible to get guys to buy into technology that measures their recovery. I
Mm.
mean, we tried Whoop. We tried I can't remember one. I can't remember the name of one that we had that they would put their finger in a pulse oximeter
Yeah.
and for 3 minutes, and it would tell us kind of their resting state or whatever. But they didn't even want to do that. It was 3 minutes long. So I always had to rely on my questions, getting to know them, how they recover from day to day,
Yeah.
getting to know their medical history, being aware of our travel.
Yeah.
So just asking how they're doing came with a lot of context and a lot of information behind that question, because
Yeah.
there's more to it. But it was a constant question that I had to ask, because otherwise I wouldn't know how to proceed some days.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't have no context on how each player is doing. And I mean, I really want to go into the weeds of like the season and how you guys like work throughout the season, but mainly also so we get a little bit of context. I wanted to ask, how does a baseball team like approach, if that's the right word, the strength training? Meaning, okay, how much of a priority is it? How do they distribute it in their week to week, day to day schedule? What
Well,
things are you guys trying to accomplish as well with the strength training?
yeah. So I think in baseball now,
Mhm.
everybody is very aware that weight training works.
Yeah.
And everybody has strength coaches, and everybody has a program of some sort. Everybody does it different, but for the most part, I think most guys would agree that baseball is a game of power and strength,
Mhm.
not necessarily aerobic endurance.
Mhm.
So, having said that, you try to gear your workouts to promote strength and power.
Okay.
Everybody is focused on pitching velocity or exit velocity when you hit the baseball. And
Mhm.
so those things come from, strength, power, and proper sequencing of the drills or the movements of baseball pitching and hitting. And you
Okay.
can be super strong, but if you can't sequence well or sequence efficiently or the right way, you're not going to hit a baseball with authority.
Mhm.
So like considering that you're always shooting for power or strength, then from there you just try to assign those variables to the different positions. Pitchers want to throw harder, hitters want to hit harder. The guys that are fast, they want to steal bases, so they want to maintain speed.
Mhm.
The guys that are power hitters, they want to maintain strength. And so you take them by position, but also by body type.
I see.
Because you might have two third basemen, and one of them is a power hitter, kind of slow, sluggish guy, but then you might have a guy that is a little smaller but relies more on speed. And
Mhm.
so all the workouts come from either body type or position that they play. So
Okay.
starting pitchers, they have 5 days. They pitch every 5 days, so they got 4 days in between.
Mhm.
So their workouts can be programmed a little bit more consistent, because there's day one. Normally we do like a recovery day, and legs.
Mhm.
On day two, they will do more of a conditioning day with upper body and core. And then day three, they might do some plyometrics.
Okay.
And then day four, I always made it optional, whatever they felt like they needed to do to get ready for their start. Some guys wanted to rest. Some guys wanted to do sprints. Some guys wanted to do a little lift.
Yeah.
But it was a little more. Starting pitches are a lot easier to
Yeah.
schedule because they know when they're going to play.
And they're also very routinary, no? Like they want to have their things like scheduled and like make sure everything's dialed in, right?
Yeah, they tend to be the most picky because
Mhm.
they're creatures of habit. They cannot. A lot of those guys, the good ones, they struggle when they don't have structure. Mentally they struggle.
Yeah.
And then you got the relievers, and those pitchers, you never know when you're going to pitch, because you got relievers that pitch when we're winning the game, and you got relievers that pitch when we're losing the game, and then things happen during the game that you weren't expected to pitch that day, but then all of a sudden this starting pitcher gets hurt. Now you got to go in.
Yeah.
So I consider those guys like position players. Position players that play every day. You got to be ready every day.
Yeah, you want to make sure they're ready for every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so the main, the first thing that those guys need to be on top of is a proper warm up every day. Good warm up before before batting practice, but also a proper warm up before when they call. When they call into the bullpen and they're like, "Hey, you got the next batter. You got 5 minutes to warm up. What are you gonna do?" You don't just get up and start throwing the baseball. You gotta have something ready to go, because a lot of times these guys that get called upon on a moment's notice is like, this pitcher is getting hit pretty hard. We need to get him out. They call over there. Sometimes they give you 10 minutes. Sometimes you got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you gotta have a script ready. So you gotta know how to get your body ready quick.
And how does a reliever pitcher, like, how do you ensure they're warmed up in such a small period of time? Like, what things are you looking at in that warm up?
Well, I mean, in the bullpen, they'll have a set of tubing, bands, medicine balls, cuff weights. They can run a few sprints. They'll have an air bike back there, so things that can get their heart rate up as quickly as they can, and so just moving quickly. Now, the other thing too, on a regular game, not if everything goes to plan, on a regular game, all those guys are around the 5th inning, they start moving around. The first 5 innings, they're just sitting around, joking around, doing nothing, watching the game. But the 5th inning, they start moving. They're all they'll get up, they'll start stretching, because after the 5th inning, anything goes.
And
so they have to be ready. Yeah. Unless it's the 9th inning guy, he only pitches the 9th inning, and that guy can take a little more time.
Okay.
But for the most part, 5th inning, those guys start moving around, start doing their stretches, their bands, med balls. Then they just do it periodically throughout the next few innings, in case their name is called, so that they don't have too much to warm up.
I see.
So that's one thing.
And then the training itself of starting pitcher compared to the one of a reliever, is it different? I mean, considering, because the starting pitcher is gonna be there for 5-6 innings, and then the reliever is probably gonna be 1-2 innings. So are you training in a different way, or is the training overall similar?
Very similar. The difference is that the starting pitcher has more volume. He can afford to do more because he's got days off. A reliever doesn't have that luxury because he may be in that day. So if he kills his legs in the weight room before the game, he might not, So, training for pitcher consists of some common things. Everybody has to have a shoulder and elbow program, some sensible upper body. You can't be too heavy, so that's pitchers are always, in my opinion, should use lighter weights, dumbbells, for the upper body, because I think the biggest mistake that all athletes make is, they fall in love with chest, and they do a lot of bench, whether it's dumbbell or barbell, it doesn't matter. They train their chest too hard, and then they become too stiff, and then the arm needs to be pliable and mobile, and so you create a lot of
range of movement, right?
Yeah, it affects the range of motion. So so upper body lifting for pitchers needs to be a little bit sensible. You can't be too crazy, but you need it. You still do normal things. I had major league pitchers who would bench press with the bar. That's not a big deal as long as the shoulder is healthy and everything else is good. So, but they need to be careful. with the upper body lifting. And then, so perhaps if a starting pitcher does 5 sets of squats, the reliever may just do 2,
Mm-hmm.
and in season we keep everything low volume, especially lower body, 3 to 5 reps, 3 to 5 reps, 3 to 4 sets, because I believe that you can lift heavier and not get as sore when you keep it low volume.
Yeah.
So the whole season is pretty much low volume.
Okay.
I would say that across the board for everyone. We try to keep the volume low because you take thousands of swings, you take thousands of throws. You can't be doing a lot of volume, and especially weight training. With high volume weight training is always going to make you stiff, and these guys don't want to feel stiff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the conditioning for the starting pitchers is a little bit more, because at the end of the day, their goal is to last the longest. You want to last 5 to 7 innings, and so you need to have a little bit more cardio, a little bit more work capacity. How you do that, that's still kind of a big debate. People. And when I first started, pitchers used to like to run distance. Now, in today's world, they don't like to run at all. But I feel like the answer has always been somewhere in between.
I see.
You got to have a little bit of low intensity cardio, some metabolic work. I prefer circuits as opposed to running.
Okay.
Some sprint work and plyometric work. So between those 3 things, I feel like you develop plenty of work capacity. So I've always been a big believer of the light intensity cardio, continuous cardio, just as a recovery modality, not as a conditioning.
Yeah.
So something like that for recovery, but the other stuff is just get after it. Circuits, plyos, sprints. That should give you enough work capacity.
Yeah.
Okay. We also talked about mobility. Like, do you like extra mobility training, or does it come with the strength training, like range of motion? Because I can imagine for the pitch has a very important rotational strength in that.
So part of what we promote is in the warm up. You spend some time doing mobility drills. The last few years I was there. We implemented FRC, range of motion type drills, kind of a hybrid FRC. I still feel like at the end of the day, it's just range of motion.
Yeah.
You can call it what you want, but you're just trying to get hip internal rotation, shoulder internal rotation, thoracic extension, all those movements that you lose throughout the season. As there's plenty of methods that promote those things, but at the end of the day, as a baseball player, you need internal rotation, because you do external rotation so much that you lose that internal rotation. And then usually the front leg of the hitter and the pitcher, you lose hip internal rotation because you're decelerating into that front leg thousands of times. So and then a big deal is, in the last 10 years, has been the thoracic extension when it comes to pitching. When they get into this position, you go into extension. And so plenty of different ways to do that. But in their warm up and their daily prep work, one of the things that we were going to talk about is, when they come into the weight room before batting practice, they'll come in and they'll do some movement prep. They'll spend some time foam rolling, range of motion, stretching, and then they'll begin their lift if they have one. And then after that, they'll go out to batting practice.
Okay. So they would have that lift before the batting practice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So like that, all that stuff is included in the warm up.
Okay. So the mobility comes from the warm up. Then also like the exercises, you want to have a good range of movement inside of them, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, now perfect. And there's something that I wanted to ask you about. Of course, we know the benefits of plyometrics, that you mentioned that's a big part of the of of the program for a pitcher, just for any pitcher watching that's might want to see, okay, how should I train? Like, what benefits are they gonna get from the plyometric workout?
Well, the number one thing you always get at a plyometrics is power, because you're pushing off the ground as quickly as you can, and so that is the name of every sport. Every sport, you want to hit the ground and change direction. So, so it's important that you always understand that when you're training plyometrics, you're training power, but also like you have to do it in a way that is explosive. It just can't be like you're playing on the playground, you land, take your time, and then jump to the next rock. It's got to be explosive. It's got to be intentional, and it's got to be quality. So number one. But number two, the other thing, and this is something that a lot of baseball players miss, and if you work with baseball players and you have them do a box jump, they don't know how to use their arms. They don't know how to sequence their arms and pull the arms back, and then throw them up in the air and jump. One of the benefits of plyometrics is creating a sequence of I'm connecting my upper body, my lower body to explode vertically. And so I have had many elite baseball players who couldn't jump properly, but they were explosive in their sport. They did everything really well as a baseball player, but they didn't sequence well when it came to jumping. And one of my biggest I guess anecdotal experiences with that, I had a player that was older, in his early 30s, which is kind of old if you got to baseball and at that age, and he was losing velocity, and he asked me, hey, I'm not pitching well. I'm losing my velocity, and this was in season, so it wasn't off season. He was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's cut out the weight training and let's work on plyometrics. Let's do certain things. So we did we worked on some med ball tosses and some slide board and some side jumps. People call them hidings, and and so we just did a lot of jumping. And I taught him how to do it. Like, use your arms when you hinge and explode out of the hinge, and so we worked on that. And within a few weeks' time, just because these guys are good athletes, and the first few weeks of training, anyways, you're gaining coordination. You're not really necessarily getting strength. So, just within a few weeks, he went back up. He went from like 91, 92 to 94, 95, where he used to be. And he was happy as it can be. And we just did it twice a week, because usually with the relievers or with all the players, we have 3-game series. So we always work out once per series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like, how you, in baseball, you play 3 games, then you travel to the next city, you play 3 games, and, 3 to 4. So we always work out 1 day out of the 3. So that in 9 days, you got 3 workouts.
Yeah.
And so normally when you do that, you probably have about 8 to 10 workouts a month, and that's plenty.
Yeah.
And so anyways, but we did it for twice a week, and then he went to another team the next year, and he was part of the World Series team with the team that he went to, and he just always, to this day, he still sends me messages, man, you extended my career for a few years just because I taught him how to jump. It was a big deal to him, but for me, it was just like, well, let's see if you can sequence better and use the capacity that you have, but you just need to sequence better, and it worked. So
I can imagine how, because baseball is a sport in which both the upper body and the lower body have to be coordinated. And as you mentioned, when you're jumping, if you're using the arms and emphasizing on the movement of the arms, that's basically what you're doing. Coordinate, like as you mentioned, sequencing that movement of the lower body with the upper body, and how both parts can aid each other, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and if you played whatever sport you play, if you've ever done plyometrics, if you look around at your teammates, you're going to see all kinds of things.
Yeah.
You know, some guys do it really well. Some guys are really smooth. Some guys are really quick on and off the ground. Some guys look like they're having a seizure, you know, so like it's like you see all kinds of things.
Yeah, but I found it very interesting because I mean we both play soccer, and soccer is a sport in which you have to like run in multiple directions. There's a lot of jumping, so you might say, okay, plyometrics makes more sense, but then a lot of people I can see how they wouldn't expect plyometrics being a big thing for something like baseball because they might just think of it like landing, jumping, but then those components of sequencing of getting more explosive actually can help you in the sport of baseball and actually in every sport, right?
Yeah, because in baseball, so if you're a pitcher, when you throw the baseball and you're going down the mound, your front leg, as you stride, your front leg is going to hit the ground. It's going to put on the brakes.
Yeah.
It's going to put on the brakes so that the energy comes up through the leg, through the trunk, and out the arms. If I can't control my body when I land and redirect forces, then I'm not going to be effective. And so even though I was talking about sequencing with a standpoint of moving my arms up and down, but it still applies when you throw the baseball. When the front foot hits the ground, it has to create a stopping force so that the energy can redirect. That's what you're doing with plyometrics. You are going to land and you're going to create a stopping force to redirect your body, either, you know, laterally, on the box, forward, whatever. It's the same idea. You know, sport is about being able to decelerate, stop, and decelerate completely, and then redirect. It's not just about acceleration. If you can't decelerate, you're not going to accelerate. If you have a Ferrari and you know that you don't have brakes, you're not going to drive it very fast.
That's
so
true.
The brain does the same thing. If the brain knows that you can't slow down your leg, and he knows that if I slow down, I'm going to blow my knee out, then you're not going to be very powerful. You know? The brain's pretty smart, but if you train it to stop the body and redirect it, then you're stronger, and you can apply that idea to different things in baseball.
Definitely. I mean, basically, as a pitcher, you're landing there. No, man, I think is great what we've talked about because I think there's a lot of actionable advice that a lot of people can take there. Especially, we went deep into like the program of a pitcher. Now, just to like go to the side of it, there's also a lot of guys that might be position players. So for them, how different are the things that you're looking for? Of course, like you have your main things that are strength and power for a baseball player, but how much does it differ, or what are the main things that a position player should be looking for in their strength program?
Well, you know, when it comes to lower body training, I try to use the same type of methods, you know, squats, deadlifts, and whatever. So having said that, I'd say the main difference between pitchers and position players is speed and agility work. Position players require different speeds. So if you're an outfielder, you got to run a little bit longer. So you need to be able to have a little bit higher sprint speed. If you're a position player, you need to be able to change direction side to side, forward and back, depending where the ball's hit. And so again, talking about sequencing, in order to be a good base runner in baseball, you don't necessarily have to have speed, but you need to be able to create angles. So when I'm in my fielding position, I need to be able to, my first step, I have to have the right angle at my ankle, my knee, my hip, my head, in order so that if I'm going to this side, when my foot hits the ground, it's ready to push off the ground. I don't want to have to step and then lean in and then push. I need to be able to be right into that forward lean position. And my first step, I should have created an angle so that my second step, I'm already going. A lot of people, when they change direction, they step, they lean, and then they go. And so in baseball, when you're fielding a ground ball, if you can step and lean at the same time, so that when your foot go, you're already off and running.
I
So
see.
same thing with base stealing, same thing when I'm chasing the ball in the outfield. I take my step. If all my angles are right, I'm gonna keep running properly, and I'm gonna get as much out of my body as I can.
Yeah, I mean, and it sounds like it's very specific to that movement and very detailed to that movement. Do you want to work on this by specifically doing the movement of grabbing the ball and already being in the angle, or do you also work in any way on the weight room or in the gym?
Well, we do it. They get both. They get both
Okay.
because on the field they're going to be with a fielding coach that understands angles
Okay. Yeah.
from the standpoint of the skill itself.
Okay.
They might not necessarily look at it as a triple extension movement or all that stuff that we would say, but they understand that if I have a guy and he's going this way and he's stepping, but his head is up, he knows that by the time the head comes back down, the ball's gone.
Okay.
And so they get it on the field, and then we practice it in the weight room with with whatever, like first step quickness, ball drops, agility ladders, plyometrics, starts. We get in a base stealing start and just work on that. How to get off the ground. Just like a track guy works on the blocks. We'll get a base stealing position and just work off the blocks like that. So
okay. So in terms of strength and power, those are going to be like your main components. The lower body is going to be pretty similar to what a pitcher will get, but then you add these other components that are more related to their specific position. So as you mentioned, an outfielder might be looking to run to do a bigger displacement, to run more distances, and then somebody that's in the diamond might be looking to like that. I mean, every field position wants to work on that first step and in those angles to make sure that their whole body is positioned in the right way when they get the ball, so they can do the whole movement like it flows more, if that's the right word to call it.
Yeah, no, it is. If they don't work at it, it's because they're really good. Because they all need it. I mean, nobody's perfect.
Yeah. It was just me trying to get a good picture of what you guys were working on. Now that I got a good understanding, we got a good understanding of the main specific things that the players work on. I wanted to ask you, and I know we touched a little bit on it, but in-season training, right? How do you program a training that is in the middle of 162 games? How do you make sure that the players are still getting the right stimuli, but of course making sure that they're ready and recovered for the game?
Well, I break down the season in 3 parts, so I consider it 6 months, so 2 months at a time. And you obviously you want to plan, and you want to have plans according to scientific principles, but you also got to remember you got to stay fluid and change at any moment, depending on injury or fatigue. But I'd say when we come out of spring training, we try to stick with strength variables, like 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. To maintaining just it's somewhere between 6 and 12 reps. For the first couple of months, just making sure that they're still lifting, they still maintain a little bit of muscle mass, but also lifting semi-heavy, medium heavy. And then the next 2 months we train power, so we go lower volume, heavier weight if they can. Sets so 3 to 5 for the main lift, bench, squat, deadlift, that kind of stuff. And then the next 2 months we're kind of coming up to the all-star break, the halfway point, and so we call it speed strength, or speed. So we turn those squats into speed squats. So we might put some bands and keep it really light and just be explosive with it. Bench press, be explosive with it. Deadlift, be explosive with it. So deadlift jumps, or use bands or use chains or something, but keep it light, but just move the bar, move the weight fast.
Yeah.
So we do strength, power, and speed. and
Yeah.
then we do it again. We come back from the, so that, and then, and that's a good, my assistant came up with that terminology and how we organized it. And I thought that's a good way to label it, because if we think about it, when we're getting up to the halfway point, the guys are
Mm-hmm.
getting tired. They're getting
Yeah.
tired, and what they need is reaction time. What they need is explosiveness. And if we're still lifting heavy and they're feeling tired, they're not going to lift heavy, and they're not going to move well. So you're
Mm-hmm.
not really doing anything other than exercising.
I see.
So when they were most tired, we lightened the load so that they were like, oh yeah, I can move fast. Because no
Okay.
matter
Yeah.
what, you always want to move fast every day. You
Yeah.
want to move fast every day on the field. So it made sense to, right when they're tired, they can move
Mhm.
fast. And then
Yeah.
at the end of the season, when we're either getting ready for playoffs or kind of done or whatever, move fast. Because at that
Yeah.
time, either we're going to the playoffs and they don't want to do too much, or they want to um, they're done and they don't want to do anything anymore because they're
You're
done working
tired.
on load.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at least they're willing to do something loud and explosive, because
Mm. I lost you there. Yeah. Can you hear us, Jose?
yeah, kind of
Okay.
glitched a little bit.
Okay, no, it's good now. So it's kind of like that cycle where they go from strength, power, and speed, but then you're always trying to move. Like at the end of the day, you always try to move the weight in a fast way. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you for that speed training. You mentioned that first phase of strength is more like 6 to 12 reps. Then you go down in reps for the power phase. Then for that speed part, how do you manage the reps and the sets for like considering that they're not necessarily using a lot of weight?
Well, we used what's it called, gym aware, so
Okay.
velocity based training.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
for the strength part, we make sure that they were moving the weight at around between 50.5 meters per second to about 0.75 meters per second.
Okay.
And then for the power phase, 0.75 to 1 meters per second.
I see.
And then for the speed phase, anything over 1, which when you're doing things over 1 meters per second, you're doing pretty much plyometrics.
I see.
So we had that device on the bars, and then so we were able to apply the load based on the speed of the device. So we could tell, hey, you need to put more weight on there, you're going too fast, or you need to lighten the load, you're going too slow. And so that was how we did it.
Okay. And that was relative to each person's capacity, or
Yeah,
you would. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I see.
yeah. We just use the same numbers for everybody. Just move at this speed. You
Okay.
know, we got 3 sets of 5. Move at the speed.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. And I mean that will be in season. And then you mentioned that, just to make sure I got it right, you guys would do training like from a three game series. You would train one of those days, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the 3 game series, would those be games consecutive games, like they back to back to back?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I see. And how do you structure a training that a lot of the times happens the same day of the game? Like, do you try to be careful in some way, or just the simple thing that you're mentioning has it covered? Like you already think about that in your programming.
Yeah. Like, so usually the first or second days were night games, so they had pretty much all day to get it done.
Okay.
And then usually the third day was a day game, so not the best time to work out if you had a night game and you come back early in the morning for the next day.
Hmm.
But yeah, it always worked out. First or
Okay.
second day of that series, somewhere between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock, that they had plenty of time.
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask you now that you mentioned that. Like, for example, in a night game, does it work for you that they do it in any moment just before you guys go out to the field, or do you are there specific time that you would prefer for them to do it just so they get ready for the game?
Well, I mean, everything we did, we always tried to put science to it.
Okay, yeah.
So number one of the reasons we started promoting everything before the game is because after the game, you're tired, you're dehydrated.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing you want to do when somebody's tired and dehydrated is to lift weights.
Yeah.
It's just not productive.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the common sense part is after the game, and if you do it before the game, you haven't lost yet. After the game, if you wait after the game, they lost or they went 0 for 4 and they're pissed off and they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than for me to try to convince a guy that struck out 4 times.
Oh yeah.
So psychologically, it was better to try to get them to do it when they're happier.
Yeah.
And then, just in Texas, because it was so hot, especially summer months, the dehydration and the heat was just miserable. And I remember days where I had planned for the guy to do 4 exercises, and he just come down that hallway and his head is steaming from the heat. And I'm like, let's just do 2. Well, you do that if you do that for several weeks, then you start losing, the effect. And so then a month later, you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So it just made more sense to do it all before the game.
Definitely.
And then I even found, then you can apply the neurological stimulation. I remember a guy that liked it so much that when he lifted, he would lift right before the game because the lift really woke him up. Baseball is a very long day, and a lot of times, a lot of guys get really sleepy right before the game because they've done everything, so now they're crashing. You take your nighttime is coming, so your brain starts beginning to want to put you to sleep. So this particular guy, he liked lifting before the game, so because he liked the stimulus.
I see.
So taking all those things into consideration, I think the best time to train is before the game.
Okay, I see. And now that we got an idea of also how you guys work in the preseason, I also wanted to ask you, because you guys, and I mean, I'm from Colombia, so when you guys finish season, the season in Colombia starts, right? And a lot of the guys from the MLB might go to there to play Winter League. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on how would the perfect off season for a baseball player look like? Should they go and play? Should they just focus on strength training? How should they approach it?
It depends on what they need. Because if you're a young guy and you're underweight, I remember a story of I had a guy that I struggled with my superiors because I was not in favor of him playing winter ball because the guy was really skinny and very weak.
Yeah.
And I know that to play Major League Baseball, you need to be a little bit more resilient, and you need a little more meat on your bones. And this kid was just not, not in the best condition. And but he was like, according to my bosses, he was the next coming of Jesus. And so I was like, all right, whatever, you guys do whatever you want. And sure enough, the kid got hurt and had surgery on his shoulder, and he was never the same. He changed positions, he became a utility. But I feel like that kid would have been better served if he would have spent one whole off season, trying to put on, at least 10 pounds of, and get stronger, and perhaps we would have saved his arm. But some things are out of my control. But
definitely,
when it comes to that, if you are a player that is underweight and under strength, then you need to address that, because you only have so many years to get to that level of strength, because after 25 we're all start declining anyway. So you need to, once you reach a pretty decent level of strength, you can maintain it throughout your lifetime and be fine. But I do know, and also from experience, I saw so many players that the ones that were just weak and frail, regardless how good they were, they always got hurt. It's a lot of stress on the body. There's a lot of games, a lot of flights, a lot of sitting around, a lot of stuff that people don't consider very stressful, but it really is.
Yeah.
And so if your body's not strong and resilient, you're not going to be able to manage. So
Yeah. So as you mentioned, like if you want to go to the MLB, if you want to play baseball at the higher level, and actually any sport, there's some level of strength and condition that you need to reach. And a lot of the guys might not necessarily be in that point. So like using that off season to get to that point and like taking advantage of it, of the time that you have to get to that point, because then I mean the energy or the effort that you might need to maintain it is way less than to get there, right? So just trying to get there as soon as you can and like taking advantage of the off season. And once you get there, you can like afford to, let's say, play winter ball in this area and then do more things that you might want to do, right?
yeah, because if you know if your body's not ready, I don't care how good you are. If you get hurt, you're not going to play anyways. So you might as well get your body ready and then go for it. But some people sometimes they rush things, and so if you would have delayed playing winter ball one more year or two, he still would have made it to the big leagues. He still did. I mean, he still had a good career. He's still playing today, but I think he would have been. Well, he ended up being what I said he was, a utility player. But I think we would have saved his arm.
One issue is like, or not an issue, but like a misconception. Like when people think about strength training, they only think about like getting stronger, getting faster, but also like it's for injury prevention, especially in a sport like baseball. There's so much stress, like depending on which position you play, but also like for like any athlete, like a soccer player, football player, like you have to strengthen your legs to protect your knees, and the same thing for baseball players for the upper body.
Yeah, and getting stronger is not just about lifting weights. Getting stronger when sometimes that's the other thing that sometimes people they have the misconception of what all these things mean. For me, when I don't even try to I've tried to stay away from the word strength. I think about just preparation. Strength is just one thing. Lifting weights is just one part. For a baseball player, you got to do shoulder work, you got to do elbow work, you got to do core work. If you're a position player, you got to do speed work, you got to do agility work. If you got to have good sleep habits, you got to have good nutrition habits. You gotta plan ahead, you gotta prepare. There's some guys just they don't consider the way that they live as part of their training. And so you got to consider the way that you live and you eat as part of your training. And sometimes as young guys, sometimes we feel like we recover faster and we don't have to do some things. But even though, and this is what I tell my son, because he's in high school, and sometimes he'll stay up too late before a tournament, and then he'll feel bad. Then he won't feel bad in the morning. He's like, "Oh, I'm okay." Yeah, but then your bat looks slower during the game, and you don't feel it until you hit that ball, and you're like, "Oh, heck, my bat is slower." Well, at that point, it's too late. And so baseball is one of those sports that you don't really necessarily feel the fatigue until you're in the game and you're trying to swing the bat and you realize that your bat is slower than normal, or you're throwing the ball and it's slower than normal. At that point, it's too late. So
amazing. I totally agree with you, and that's also one of the main reasons why our business is called Awarenezzz, because we realize that there's a lot of things that we do on a day-to-day basis that end up affecting how we perform. So what we're trying to do basically is building that awareness in the athletes so they know, okay, how is this lack of sleep or sleeping late is going to affect my game? Because it's something that they might not think about, but at the end of the day, it's really affecting it. How this thing that I'm eating today is going to affect how I feel tomorrow when playing, right? So I think that that point that you touch is really, really important, especially for young athletes, that they might be thinking, "Oh, I cannot sleep at night. I don't know what it is," But then, like, if you look at their daily habits, you have a very big clue of what might be the thing. They might be taking a pre-workout at 7 p.m. at night, and that can be the reason for what they not. So bringing awareness about all these different aspects that affect their performance. I think you touched a very important point. And
Yeah,
now,
well, I like. Well, let me say something like I
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
the word awareness because um, the more the best, in my opinion, the best athletes were aware of more things than the
Mhm.
guys that were not so good. They were more aware of how they felt. They were more aware of how they ate. They were more aware of how they sleep. They were more aware of how they prepared like, their stuff. For example, like if they were going to work out, they had to make sure that they had all their stuff. They didn't forget their workout shoes or like those guys that were always on top of things. That awareness of being on time, that awareness of all those things. All those things matter because if you go to a workout, let's say you go to a workout and then you forgot your shorts, and now you're working out in your underwear, and you're you're gonna feel weird. And
yeah,
so your mind is still kind of upset and wondering, thinking about the fact that you forgot your shorts again.
yeah,
And so that's going to affect your workout because it messes with your mind. And so those little things they matter. They matter because now your focus is on the fact that you forgot as opposed to, you know, as opposed to doing what you're supposed to do. So just having an awareness,
yeah.
as a young player, of those things, it matters because I see it. I saw it all the time. Saw
I
it all
love
the
it.
time.
I love it, man. And now that you touched also on like the young athletes, when I was looking at your last podcast, I mean, I don't know if it was your last one, but it was one of your previous podcasts. You mentioned something about the role of parents in
Hmm.
like the development of a young athlete, and you say something along the lines of they should just like shut up or just something like that. I just wanted to like get your thoughts on that because I think it's also something very important that might be valuable for a lot of people. Like, what would be the role of a parent if they want to make like help the kids development the most?
Yeah, obviously, the role of the parent is probably the most important in the development of a young athlete
Mm.
for many different reasons. I mean, obviously, they take you to practice, they pay for your stuff, all
Hmm.
that stuff. Obviously, that as a young athlete, you need that.
Yeah.
But what I've learned, even from my time working with older guys, men,
Hmm.
listening to their stories about their relationship with their fathers, uh, made me realize that there's a lot to that. I had guys that had really good relationships with their fathers, and their fathers were always encouraging and pushed them in the right way and guided them in the right way and so on. But then I also had parents that were really mean, that up to that day they would text some stupid things, what you swung at that pitch yesterday, and just be real annoying. And
Yeah.
so my biggest message that I feel is I give to the parents is learn how to communicate with your children. There's an art to that when it comes to communicating about sports, because number one, most young people don't know how to express what they're feeling.
Hmm.
So if the kid has a bad game, and then first thing that the dad goes as they're getting in the car is like, "Hey, what'd you swing at that pitch?" And the kid doesn't know how to express it, then he's going to shut down. He's going to get upset. He's going to cry or whatever it is. Versus, you know, if you develop a language with your son or your child throughout practice, where hey, when you swing at those pitches like that, what do you feel? What are you thinking? What's going through your head? Draw that out as a way of helping that player or that child express themselves, as opposed to start correcting them.
I
You
see.
know, it, each athlete is trying to solve a problem in their head. Every athletic activity is a puzzle. I'm trying to hit a baseball. I'm trying to make sure that my hands are in the right place, my feet are in the right place. I'm moving this way, I'm rotating that way. I got to keep so the brain is doing all these things that um, we sometimes take for granted, the ability of the brain to solve problems. And so But as most humans, we don't know how to express ourselves. So when a dad or a mom is like, "Hey, what'd you do that in the game?" or "What'd you swing at that?" It's like, first of all, your attitude, they're already shutting you out. Because as soon as you start giving people an attitude or start yelling, people shut you out. They don't listen. But secondly, you got to understand that child was trying to solve a problem, and it was hard. It was not hard. Unless you're a Hall of Fame baseball player, you probably have no. Most parents don't have much of a background in the game, anyways,
Yeah.
and so they need to try to consider a little bit what the child is feeling. The frustration that the child may be feeling, and so figure out when is the best time to talk to them, or how to talk to them. Do I talk to him after the game? Do I talk to him the next day? And even if he doesn't, and then if he doesn't want to talk, don't talk to him. It's like at the end of the day, it's their career, not yours.
I see.
That's another thing that a lot of parents don't they forget. It's like, first of all, it's not your career, it's his. Your career is over. There's his beginning. How can you help them in their career? And you got to figure out what kind of child you have. Is it a mature person? I had three children. One, I could coach up to a certain point. When she got confused, she locked up. She didn't want to do anything or didn't want to do anymore. I had one that as soon as I coached her, she would cry. And then then my third one, he's always asking me for feedback. Dad, what'd you think of that swing? And even in one conversation with him on the way to the park, he's like, "Dad, I don't like it when you talk to me through the fence because I can hear your accent, I can hear your voice, and it just bothers me." I was like, "Okay, cool, perfect." So when he hits, I never say anything. I let him do his thing. And then after the at bat, he'll come and say, "Hey, I swung at a bad pitch. I'll just get it next time." And over time, we developed the conversation because he told me what he liked, and I told him what I thought, and then we come up with a plan. So now I know that there are certain times. I also coach him. There's when he's at the plate, he doesn't want me to talk to him, so I don't say anything.
Yeah.
But then when he gets to first base, or if he gets to the dugout and he wants to talk to me about what happened, then he tells me. And then when he does that, then I give him my feedback.
Yeah.
So I don't coach him unless he asks.
Yeah.
That's kind of my approach. So for me, I guess this is a long-winded answer, but if I'm a dad, I'm a mom, coach them when they ask you. If you can keep that up, just coach them when they ask you. Because when people ask for help, it's because they want it. People don't want help most of the time. They want to figure it out themselves. And if they don't say anything, they want to figure it out, let them do it. So if you want to coach your kids, just let them ask you first.
I love
That
it.
would be my advice.
I used to be a trainer like back in Germany, and like one of the main things I always saw like correlating to their parents like is their confidence. Like you see them on the pitch and then you see them talking to their parents, and then like you see how their parents are. And like when the parents, like you said, like always like, "Oh, why did you do this? Why did you do this?" Like they feel being judged. And in such a young age, I think sports is more like it should always be about fun. And I think the more confidence you are, like the more stuff you try to express yourself on the pitch. And in the end, like that's what I mean in baseball. Like I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but like in soccer, like you want to express yourself and like be very creative. And I think that's something all the parents should be aware of, like how they talk to the kids, especially in the sports.
Yeah, because I mean, it stops being a process in which I'm trying to learn, so I'll try different things, and it becomes something of, oh, I'm just trying to make sure that I do things right. So whenever I get that feedback from my dad or my mom, I like he only has good things to talk about me because that's how it is. And I had an experience not so long ago being I was like a referee in a game. And I took the time. I was focusing on what the parents will be saying, and it's just overwhelming for some kids. It's just overwhelming, and I was just thinking about it. I mean, when I was playing, it was just for me. It was just like voices, But then when you focus on it, it's really overwhelming, and you can see how it might affect the development of a kid. And I think it's all what you mentioned. It doesn't have to be a specific way. It doesn't have to be a specific type of communication because everybody is different. But it's you coming into the same page with your kid on how is it gonna be the best way that we're gonna communicate to make sure that we're like I'm not affecting you and that you're actually receiving help when you want to, not whenever I feel like I should help you, right? So I think that point that you touch is super, super important, especially for parents with young athletes. Definitely. And Jose, I don't know how we are with time, but we were
I
planning
got
some.
a few minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had some rapid fire questions that
Yeah, go ahead.
we were planning to that just get quickly. But just before that, I really want to appreciate you taking the time, and because just getting at all this experience, all this value, and all these insights from somebody like you that has been on the field for such a long period of time is really, really valuable. Not only for us, but then also for whoever is watching, like getting all this insight from people that have been inside of it. So I really appreciate you being here and taking the time, and it's super, super valuable.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So just to get started with the rapid fire questions, what is the most overrated exercise you see people do, or type of exercise?
Most overrated. For baseball, I would say Olympic lifts.
Olympic lifts?
Yeah, for baseball, I don't think it's necessary.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, and then just to turn it around, like what's the most underrated exercise you would say?
Back squat.
Back squat.
Back squat?
People just, I still feel like it's the best exercise. You get the most out of it athletically, and I've had a lot of success with it, and people are always still trying to convince people that that's bad for your knees, bad for your back, and they're always criticizing a lift that has been stood the test of time, and it's still, when properly done, you can get really, really strong and powerful.
I mean, you cannot answer this one, but day or night game?
Night game.
Night game, right? It gives you more time to like get the
Do stuff.
training in and everything. Okay, yeah.
What is one thing that separates the most successful athletes, in your opinion?
Say that again.
What's one thing that separates the most successful athletes?
Oh, the most successful athletes. Number one, I would say is just consistency in their preparation. And like you guys talk about awareness, they have the best awareness of beyond their peers, So
Like every different factor and how it might affect their performance, right?
yeah, exactly. They're consistent with everything. They're consistent with their rehabilitation, their strength, their preparation. They're on time. They treat people well. They play the game hard. They play hurt. Those guys, they stand out. Not many guys like that.
I see. And I mean, of course, you ended up being successful strength coach, but then of course you started as a player. What is one thing that you wish you knew when you got drafted?
Yeah, I wish I would have been a little more patient with myself.
Okay.
I felt like I just pushed myself too hard to the brink of just hating the game because I was just so hard on myself, and I realized that there was a better way to approach the game so that you can enjoy it and not be so hard on yourself.
I see. You stop seeing it as a joyful experience, but more of like constantly going at it and being extremely hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 1 year when you won the World Series, what do you think was different to the other years, if you can put it in comparison?
A lot of things came together, so like, guys that worked hard, the injuries happened at the right time, because with such a long season, you have to plan for injuries. So when you have a roster of 25, 26, you got to count on like 40 something people, because guys are going to get hurt. You're going to be guys coming up and down and stuff like that. So the times of the season when we had key injuries, other guys stepped up and carried the load. And then when those guys came back, they were fresh, and then they were able to finish the season. So, I think it was a combination of that.
Okay. And is it easier to coach guys right now, nowadays, or back then? Or what are like the main differences that you see as well?
I'd say guys right now are harder to coach because they got more information. They come with more knowledge. They have more available to them, and sometimes they come in thinking that they know everything. And so I feel like nowadays it's a little more difficult.
Okay, I see.
And also, like, do you think players are more durable now or back then when you started with your career?
I also think back in the older days, guys were a little more durable. And I think the reason why is they didn't have that much information. They're just like, all right, just tip it up, put dirt on it, let's go. Nowadays, as soon as you got a little twinge, it's like, oh, well, your fascia is just out of whack. Well, I got to do my fascia release before I pitch, and so guys talk themselves out of being able to play through a little bit of pain because they know too much nowadays.
Okay, I see. And now that we're talking about like things things players complain about and everything, what are the main things that you see the players complain about or talk about in the weight room?
Most of what they complain about is like not having enough space. Sometimes, some of our facilities, we can't just. If I had it my way, I would have had a 6,000 square foot weight room. So I can only get 2,500 in the bottom level, and it just wasn't comfortable. So I would say floor space.
Okay.
All right, and then just to finish it off, you gave some great advice already for everyone listening to this podcast and also for us, of course. What's one final advice to young athletes?
I would say awareness. Develop your awareness, because whatever you do, whether you say it or you do it, you have an impact on yourself and other people. So always be aware that whatever you do, you're impacting yourself, but you're also impacting the people around you. So create awareness.
Love it, Jose.
A way to finish it off.
Yeah,
I really appreciate the time. It was really interesting, like, to get so much information about, like, you've been in this area like for such a long time, and I can really, like, when I listen to you, like, I really sense like you know what you're talking about, and like it's so much information and experience. So it's really great today.
Yeah, that last part is perfect marketing.
Podcast.
Yeah, that last part is perfect marketing. We can just put it there for awareness. But man, as I told you, Jose,
use it if you want to. If it helps you, use it.
Appreciate it. And as I told you before, I'm really thankful for you taking the time and like sharing all your knowledge and your insights from all your experience, because it's super valuable, as I told you, not only for us, but then for the guys watching. So yeah, it was a complete pleasure, and just looking forward to perhaps having another talk sometime in the future.
Sure. Yeah, maybe have me back, and I'll let you know what I'm up to.
Perfect, Jose. Perfect.